Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in, and in this video we're going to talk about the maintenance that you should kind of look out on your cars, and the reason that we have put together the third video about cars on top of how to purchase a car and everything else that I have talked about on this channel. When we're really talking about the whole immigrant aspect of it, or like the day-to-day lessons or the things that we need to know in order to be successful. It's because cars are very important in American culture. It's just right next to the housing, the insurance, and the investing for Americans. Why? Because the cars are needed in order for Americans to kind of go from point A to point B. Why? It's because the point A to point B here in the US is often much longer than in majority of countries. I remember in Europe or in Asia, I walked for the most or majority of the trips that I have to make, but in here in the US, I almost use my car at all time. And another reason that I wanted to put together this video, it's because the used car have a horrible reputation or carry a horrible reputation because people associate them with those maintenance. And the reason that it's happening, it's because either the salesman sold them a faulty car that they didn't know how to go through and make sure it's a nice car or not, or it's a reliable car or not. But B, it's the mechanics that kind of oversell you guys on the things that you have to take care of. So hopefully with this video you know a little bit more about your cars, and we're going to talk about the short-term maintenance, the things that you need to look out in order to prevent your car from kind of getting into that cycle of you spending more money on it and requiring more stuff. And then we talk about the longer period factors as well, the things that need to be replaced on the longevity of how you're driving it, or why you're driving it, or the ownership of your car for a longer period. Alright, so without further ado, let's get into it. And before the whole thing, I just want to say that I personally experienced this whole subject with my mom a lot, because she was heavily against used cars, and she was just like going for a brand new car. And she would say that even if I have to spend less on other factors, I would rather pay more on a car or on a brand new car, because I want to make sure it is healthy. And the reason, it's because, again, some people are just in this situation that they don't want to deal with mechanics. They want to take it to a dealership, spend a lot more money, and then take care of it. Or they want to put themselves in debt and spend extra money on insurance, on debt, on interest, and everything else, but not deal with the mechanics. Again, it's because some mechanics just carry that horrible reputation and have harmed people. I even had some extreme cases in my family that some mechanics offered some sexual activities in return of the services to my mom. Alright, so that automatically puts a lot of them at that horrible position and put a lot of customer on just not wanting to deal with them. Now, we had a longer introduction. I just wanted to tell you guys about the importance of this video and how it's related with everything that we talk in this channel, and my personal reasons for putting it together. But now it's enough. Let's get into those two categories. Let's start with the short term and the things that you want to look out in order to prevent from paying more or dealing with a lot more hassle down the road. One of them is the oil and oil filter. Surprise, surprise. Okay, so that's something you want to take care of every 5K or 5,000 miles. Now, I know a lot of oils nowadays advocate for 10,000 miles or even higher, but I personally don't trust them and go with 5,000 miles and replace them within that period. Even I know a lot of my friends who are car people, and they do not let their car surpass 3,000 miles, and they always are on time when it comes to any fluid replacement. And now there are some skeptical people that are like, oh, where my oil is going to go if I don't replace it at that mileage? Well, certain engines are notorious for burning oil. So it doesn't matter if you just had an oil change. It doesn't matter if you had a perfect oil change and they put an amazing amount exactly at that amount that is required for your car when you took it for the oil change, basically. Your engine is going to burn oil, and that amount is going to be lower and lower, and eventually it will be not enough to lubricate this different part of your engine, so it's going to put you at a much higher cost. How do I know? Because it exactly happened to me. I was skeptical at first when it came to oil change. Took my car to LA and back, and I was like, I'm going to take care of it when I get here. Literally 45 minutes until I get home, the engine blew up. So we went from a $60 to $70 oil replacement to a $1,400 engine build. All right, so just do the math. It's a lot. And a tip that I can provide you guys with when it comes to the oil replacement is that always purchase your oil and oil filter yourself, because mechanics want to kind of make some profit on the oil and oil filter. So they're going to go with the cheapest version and the cheapest things that they can out there in order to make a little bit more. But they don't care about your car. They don't care if something happens to your car. However, if you purchase them from Costco, especially when they have a deal, or for other stores when they have a deal, you're saving money. Now you're paying them on the labor, and you have a better running engine because the oil that you put in is a better one and can prevent you from other hassles down the road. All right, so again, every 5K or 3,000 miles, please take care of that. Now, the next thing is spark plugs and the air filter. We're going to kind of shove them into the same category. Air filter is important. Why? Because just like your engine and your body has to exhale or push that horrible air out of your body or your engine, which becomes your exhaust, then it has to breathe. So when it comes to breathing, it needs that air filter. Just like we have these pores in our nose, that does the same thing. And the reason that it needs that air filter, it's because the particles in the air sometimes can be bad for the engine. So they have to be kind of going through that section in order to get filtered, all right, from those larger particles that potentially can hurt your engine. So by replacing that, not only you're helping your engine, but B, you are helping your MPG. So you're spending less money on gas. Now you want to take care of your air filter depending again on how you're driving your car or where you're driving your car, the location of the commuting that you're doing on a daily basis. You want to go for 30,000 to 50,000. And that same thing applies for the spark plugs. Spark plugs really depend on how many cylinders your car has, and the spark plugs literally go on top of your cylinder. So it's literally unscrewing and screwing them back on, and boom, you're done. But it's gonna cost you a little bit of money, but you're gonna receive that money back because you're saving on your MPG, and your MPG is gonna be lower. A fun fact, recently my car didn't pass the smog, but I replaced my spark plugs and it did. I never would have guessed that there can be so correlated to one another, but it happened. All right, so we talked about spark plugs, oil filter, oil replacement, and the air filter. Now let's talk about the coolant flush. The coolant flush, you want to go for 30 to 50,000 miles. I've seen people going for a longer period and be just fine. But the coolant is important also. Why? Because that coolant is going to go into your engine. Sometimes when you leave your car off and don't use it for a longer period, part of that coolant is going to be inside your engine, so there will be some corrosion. Now when you start using your engine again, that part is going to come out and get mixed up with everything else, and you want your engine to stay cooled, especially on the longer drives. And so why not save on that? Because if it doesn't, then there's a lot more that can go wrong, such as your piston getting meltdown, which can cost you a lot more. That 1400 area that I said, if your piston gets melt down, then you need an engine rebuild, which can go very much in that area. So coolant flush, 30 to 50K, and it's important. Again, if you can bring your own coolant, that would be amazing. And now let's talk about the brake pads, the brake fluid, and the brake rotors. I'll put the brake rotors on the next category, but the brake pads can be on the shorter side, but really depends on how you drive it. So from 30 to 50,000 miles, it's the regular norm. But again, if you have like these fancy rotors that are drilled or slotted, they're gonna eat up your brake pads much faster. And if you're driving in a city, which there are a lot more stoplights, so there are a lot more braking, you have to replace them sooner. So it can be from 30K, it can be sooner, or it can go all the way to the 50K. Now when it comes to the brake fluid can go with the brake rotor, so they can be on the 50 to 70K. And I've seen a lot of people that are so picky on the brake fluid, and they always go with the 30K. So the reason that I kind of included in this category, because especially if we're talking about used cars, you want to basically go and check the brake fluid. After opening up your hood, take a look at those little reservoirs that are on your firewall, and you want to see that they're kind of yellowish. All right, if they're darker, if they're black, you want to replace them. So it can be way sooner than any other parts. And they not only gonna improve your braking in majority of the parts, but it is gonna maintain your braking system at a much better level. So take care of them. And one good note to kind of keep in mind is that as soon as you open that brake fluid bottle and you use it, you cannot come back and use that again. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Don't save your brake fluid bottle after you open it. And the second factor is that majority of cases the brake fluid and the clutch fluid is the same, so don't let your mechanics to sell you extra stuff when it's not needed. And for the brake fluid, again, 30 to 50,000 miles. With the brake pads, 30 to 50,000 miles, but it really goes back to when you purchase a car and the condition of the brake fluid, but also the way you drive your car and the positions you're driving it. I'm gonna go a little bit faster because this video is getting longer, but again, rotors were on that 50 to 70K, and I think it is better to go with that OEM ones, or those who are less fancy and don't have those drilled or slotted ones, so they don't look cool. Because down the line, if you are in a tough situation one day when you don't want to spend that money, you can get them resurfaced. But if they have those dots, or if they're drilled or slotted, you can't do that. And also they're gonna eat up your brake pads much slower, so why not just go with them, especially if you're talking about it's your daily, all right, that you have a lot of brakings and you're not really looking at that performance. All right, so those are the rotors. Now we have the cabin air filter, which majority of people and mechanics trying to shove it in on the short-term side. Oh, it has to be replaced. In my opinion, and in my personal experience, I've always replaced them at 50K. I've tried to aim at replacing them at earlier mileage, such as 30,000 miles, but they were really not necessary. All right, so they're filtering the air that is coming into your cabin. And again, if you're buying a used car and it hasn't been replaced for sometimes, maybe that's something that you want to take care of. It is so simple. You can do it at home as well by just like going around the dashboard area and taking care of that. All right, so but usually it's like 50K. We're not going to talk about the tires and the batteries because it just really depends on how you drive your car and how long is your driving cycles and how well you maintain your battery. But the batteries can be 1, 2 to 3 years and even further. I've seen people with 5 years old batteries. All right, and with tires, it really depends also. But one thing you want to kind of pay attention is that the surface of your tire, the sidewalls, does it have any cracks? And how old are your tires? And on top of that, you want to kind of look out for the threads, that you want to see the even thread being eat out when you're driving. So there's nothing like no camber issues or anything like that, but also the thread is kind of to the norm that it should be, and it's not bald to put you at a danger. So that's why I didn't really talk about the tires or the batteries that much, because I think it's something you know. But let's talk about the timing belt. Thankfully, majority of engines nowadays have the timing chain, so in majority of cases you don't have to deal with that. You want to check on internet before taking your car into a mechanic and kind of fall for that. But if you do have a timing belt, that usually is from 60 to 100,000 miles that you have to replace. So it's a one-time thing. It usually costs you 1,000 or more, but then when you replace it, it's just out of the picture. And when it comes to selling your car, you can sell it much easier because they just know that thing has been replaced and don't have to worry about it. All right, I think pretty much I talked about everything that I needed to talk about. Again, these mileage that I provided, these are approximate, really depends on your driving in majority of cases that we talked about, but in many cases it is not. I just wanted to let you guys know, so when you're going to a mechanic, you're not gonna get ripped off because they say, oh, you need an air cabin filter when it's only 20,000 miles that you've been driving your car, or it's been replaced 20,000 miles ago. All right, so the longer period ones doesn't need to be replaced as often as the short ones or the category A versus category B. So please be cognizant, and it's very important, if you have that folder that you keep everything when it comes to your car, it's only gonna benefit you, because when it comes to the point when you want to sell your car, people would love to see those receipts. People would love to see that the person who took care of this car actually paid attention to everything and replaced the necessary stuff. Versus when you just don't have that and don't care about it, the majority of the times you have to spend more money because you just don't remember. And B, when it comes to selling your car, it's just another car versus, a well-maintained car. All right, I hope this video was helpful to you. Please subscribe, like, and share this video if you liked it. And the like is gonna do this video a lot, and the subscribe is gonna help me a lot with this channel. It's a motivation to put out these videos for you guys. Thank you again, and hope you enjoy your day. Peace.